at the Mishnah on Pei Amud Aleph. Second Mishnah on Pei Amud Aleph. Not Pei Aleph. Pei Amud Aleph. Someone who rented a donkey, and he told the proprietor, the owner, I want to use it to take wheat. Instead, he's taking barley. So, just going to start with the preface that there's a distinction between volume and mass or weight. Right? We have our cups and quarts, which are all measures of volume, of size, how dense, how much, cup is you take a cup and that's how much it holds. Whereas weight is pounds and ounces. You put it on a scale, it's how much the thing weighs, mass. So tvua, wheat, is denser than sa'irim, than barley. This guy switched it. So we're gonna learn the Mishnah with Abaye's pshat, and because according to Abaye, the whole Mishnah is really just saying one thing, and then we'll see in the Gemara that this Rava has a different pshat in the Mishnah. So someone who rented a chamar to bring chitin, he told him he's going to bring chitin, and then he switched it to sa'irim, which are fluffier and lighter, and take up more space with the same amount of weight. Chayiv, he's chayiv. Tvua behavior love tevin, chayiv. He made up to take tvua, which is heavier, and then instead he brings tevin, which is lighter. He's chayiv. Because the way Abaye understands it, this pshat in the Mishnah is that the person said, "Oh, listen, I made up. I was going to take a lesach, which is a volume of measurement, a measurement of volume. Let's say the equivalent of 10 gallons or a certain amount of size, a box. Let's say I said I'm going to take a box of wheat, but instead I'm taking barley, which is lighter, so I'll be able to take more barley to bring the same amount of what it'll still be less weight. I'll add to the amount of barley, and I'll still be less weight than we had agreed to. I said I was going to bring a box. Imagine the guy said, you could take a box of bricks. Instead, the guy says, you know what, I'll take a box of popcorn. Well, it's obviously much lighter on the donkey than the bricks. So instead, I'll bring 2 boxes of bricks. So the Mishnah says, if you increase from the agreed upon amount, you had said a lesach, the agreed upon volume, and because you say the weight is lighter, and like we can see in the Mishnah, it's by a relatively small amount, just 3 kavim, which is like 1/30 of the original volume. It's going to be chayiv for any damage that happens to the animal, because we say that an increase in volume is just as injurious to the animal as an increase in weight. So even though you're saying, it's still less than the weight that we had agreed to, but since you've increased the volume, you're going to be chayiv. Lahevi lesach chitin, lahevi lesach siren. If he agreed to take a lesach of chitin and he brought a lesach of sa'irin, but he didn't increase the amount at all, potter. And if he added to the burden, he's chayiv. How much is this increase that he's making to what they had agreed upon? He's going to be chayiv. Sumcha says b'shem Remeir, it has to be a saw for a camel and 3 kavim for a chamar. So that we just said the Mishnah according to Abaye pshat. Now we're going to say the machlekes. Abaye Amar kosher kamasi tlan. Right in the middle of the Mishnah it said chayiv neshanafach kosher kamasi. When he increased the volume, because he said I have extra weight to work with, he's going to be chayiv, because an increase in volume is just as difficult for the animal as kemasi, as both masi, both masi, which is weight, and nafach, which is volume, are an increase is hard for the animal. Rava amakosha limasi tanan. He said, Rava says that no, that's not what it says. It says limasi, to carry. The Gemara is going to explain. Abaya amakosha kamasi tanan nafcha kitikla. He holds that volume is similar to weight. And therefore, if you increase the volume by 3 kavin, you're going to be chayav. Rava amakosha limasa tanan tikla kitifcha v'nafcha havi taisis. Rava understands what the Mishnah is saying in the first part of the Mishnah. He's talking about where the person increased the volume, increased the weight all the way to where it was the same weight as it would have been if he had just brought chitin. A chitin, we said, is more dense. So he says, I'm going to take the nafach and increase it. I'm going to take the iron, which are lighter, and I'm going to increase it till I have the exact same weight as I would have had if I would have brought chitin. So that's more than, according to Bava, we had said it's just a mere increase of 3 kavim, which is half of a saw. Rav is saying it has to be an increase of a full saw, because what the Mishnah is saying is if you increased it by where you made the weight equal, so then the increase in nafach, which is equal to the entire difference of the volume between chitin and siren, then that volume is going to be enough to damage. Expect the Gemara Tanan lehevi lesach chitin, lehevi lesach siren potter. The Mishnah said if he agreed to bring a lesach, this volume of chitin, and instead he brought that volume of siren, he's potter and if he increased on the burden, he's chayiv ma'alav shloisha kavin. Says, doesn't the second part of the Mishnah refer to what we say in the end of the Mishnah? It says if you increase the burden, doesn't it mean if you increased it even 3 kavin, it's enough to be chayiv, which is like Abaya, not like Rava. So Gemara loisa. No, it doesn't mean 3 kavin. It means increased it a full saw. A saw is 6 kavin, which is double, which is the full difference between chitin and siren. Increased the amount of siren so that the weight equal that of a lesach of chitin. In fact, the Gemara said, and we answer according to Rava, why do we end off and say how much is the increase? It's 3 kavim. Where does that fit in? According to Rava, that's not going back. According to Rava, the Mishnah never referred to that in the beginning. All it was saying is that you're chayiv if you increased it by 3, and if you kept it the same, then it's pot. So tomorrow hachikam. According to Rava, the last part of the Mishnah is saying, what happens if you didn't switch it at all? And so he didn't, instead of bringing, it's not where he agreed to bring chitin and then he brought siren or vice versa. He said he's going to bring chitin and he did bring chitin. In that case, how much extra were you having an increase both in volume and in weight? How much are you going to be chayiv on? So then it's a smaller amount. Then it's just 3 kavim. So it's interesting, right? So it comes out that you're penalized more if you bring the same thing that you agreed upon rather than switching it. If you switched it to siren, since they're lighter, as long as your weight is still a little bit less, it's better than if you bring the same thing. If you bring a siren instead of chitin, then you can increase up to a saw, which is 6 kavin. But if you keep what you had promised, you said you're going to bring chitin, you bring chitin, then you can only increase it up to 3 kavin, which is half a saw, and then you're going to be chayiv. So some kusam mishamei saw legamu shloisha kavin lechama. Tashma lehevi lesach chitin Behavi shesh esrei sa'irun chayiv. We have a brisa that says, if someone agreed to bring a lesach, which is again a shear of volume of one lesach, which is 15, it's a half a core, so it's 15 saw, and instead he brought sheish esrei sa'irun. He brought 16 saw of sa'irun. Right? He said he was going to bring chitin. He's going to bring 15 saw of chitin. It said he still brought 16 saw of sa'irim chayiv. So that's, like we said, a saw is 6 kavan. It's mashma that it's only because he increased it by a saw he's chayiv. Hashloisha kavan potter. L'chayr it's shver on Abaya. Abaya said just increasing it by 3 is enough to be chayiv. According to Rava, you have to increase it by 6 kavan, or 1 saw. Abaya says, no, we're talking over here when we say that you're going to be chayiv for, when we say 16 sa'irim, you're going to be chayiv, it's talking about not a heaping measure, but rather it's a middle measure, a smaller measure. So therefore, the 16 sa'irim actually comes out to just 15 and a half. So if you'd measure it the other way, the other one's measuring with the heaping amounts. So this middle amount is actually less. It's actually only comes out to 3 kavim. Tanarabba, kav lekosef. A person, when he hires someone to schlep things for him, and he increases it by the amount that the person is carrying, if he increases it by 1 kav to carry on his shoulders, he's going to be, the Gemara is going to say, but it means that he's going to be chayiv for damage that he does to the person carrying. In all these cases, if you go through the measurements of the previous Gemara, we say if a person increases 3 kavim is 3 kavim is an increase of 1/30th over the original load. So a kav is 1/30th of the actual, I think it's, it would be 5 saw. Person normally carries 5 saw. If you do an extra kav, that's a 30th increase. You're going to be chayav for damage. Adriv la'ariva, an adriv is a lesach for a small boat, kor l'svina, or a kor for a middle-sized boat, shloishes kurim leburni gedayla, for a large boat. All these things, if you increase the load by a 30th, you're going to be chayav for the damage. Amar ma, kav l'kesef, if you increased a porter's burden by 1/30th, by a kav, bardasu l'shtaya, why is the person who paid him to do it, why is he chayav? He's not an idiot. He took the load. He should have said, this is too heavy for me, and not carry. Why is he carrying it if it's going to get injured? Should have said, this is too heavy, and taken it off. Abaya says, we got damaged as soon as the burden was put on. It was too late already by then for him to protest. Rava says, it could even be talking about where he didn't throw it off. We're not talking about where he got damaged, we're talking about whether he can charge extra. You would agree to pay him $10, says you're doing your when you pay by the plane, you pay your ticket, but if you put in an extra baggage, you got to pay $50 extra for the extra baggage. So if you put an extra above the normal amount, you pay a penalty. Rashi says a third teretz. The person, when you put it on the porter, he felt it was something felt wrong. He felt it was heavy, but he thought it was just, I must be weak today. I must have not gotten enough sleep last night. He doesn't realize he's overburdened. He thought it was a normal load, but he just feels schwach. And then he got injured, so then you have to pay. We said, kur l'svina shloisha kurim leborni gedayla. You do an extra kur for a boat and 3 kurim for a large boat. Amra papa shmamina stam svina spots losen kurim. A regular svina is 30 kur. We said that the regular svina you pay if you add 1 kur. And like we said, the extra burden is uniformly always 1/30th. So you see here that a regular svina holds 30 kur. And afkamina will be if you tell someone, I want to buy a boat for $100, he means stamazay, a boat that can hold 30 core. So the Mishnah. Now we're going to talk about what identifies someone as a shem mechinim or shem sacher or shayla neisa sacher. Kala omnin shemer sacherim. All omnin, meaning a kablan, someone who took a piece of work to do for a specified price, and he has to do work on it, and then he has to return it. He gave a shoe to a shoemaker, and he works on it. While he has it, he's a shemer. The shoemaker, if something happens to it, it's going to be a shemer sacher. Just to remind ourselves, the shemer chinam is chayiv just for a pshia, for negligence. A shemer sacher is chayiv for gneva v'aveda, but he's potter for einsin. And a shayel, a borrower, is chayiv even on einsin, even on something that is totally out of the blue. But anyone who says, take what you, any omen that got something to work on, and then he finished his work, and he says to the owner, come take what's yours, and give money, he's going to be treated as a shemachinam. That means once he says, that your object is ready, like you see on the little on the receipts from the what do you call it? The shoemaker, it says, you leave it for 30 days, we're not responsible. So the Gemara is saying that as soon as he finishes work and he informs you, come, get your thing, and whenever you're ready, just pay me the money, and he's saying, I don't want to be responsible for it anymore. So he becomes a shemachinam. Shmarli ve'eshmalach, if two people say, one says, Reuben says to Shimon, you watch for me my thing. Ve'eshmalach, and I'll watch your thing. Shemer sacher, he's a shemer sacher, because each one is being paid by, he's a paid watchman. Each one is being paid by the fact that the other one's watching for him. Shmarli, if one person says, Reuben says to Shimon, watch for me. And Shimon says to him, okay, put it down. He's a shemachinam. He took upon himself to watch it. If someone says, Reuben borrowed money from Shimon, and he gave a mashkin to Shimon, so Shimon holding the mashkin is the shemer sacher. He says money, he's going to be a shemachinam. The fact that he's lending money doesn't make him to a shemer sacher. However, Paris, since Paris, if Reuben still held on to his Paris, they would rot. So by giving them to Shimon, now Shimon's going to have to replace the Paris at the end of the loan. So he's doing a favor that he's going to replace his Paris that they won't rot. Even if they rot, he has to replace them. And that's the payment, and that's why he's a shemer sacher. Abashol Omer, Rishaya Adam, a paid watchman. Abashol Omer, Rishaya Adam lahaskim mashkani shalani liyas paisik v'hayel chalav. If you remember, we said that there are ways that a person can lend money and give a mashkin, and the lender can eat the paris. Like, for example, the mashkanta desura, where you formulate it not as more like a sale than as a loan. So if you give a mashkin and the person who's watching it takes it, he sees that just sitting there, let's say it's a donkey and nothing's happening with it, the lender can rent out that donkey and use the money to reduce the loan of the borrower. He's only doing a favor for the borrower. The borrower is certainly happy that he's making some money to reduce the loan. So the first thing of the Mishnah was, we're starting the Gemara on Pei Amud Beis. The Mishnah had started, every uman is like a shemer sacher. Anyone, like we said, a shoemaker, who's watching something, he's treated as if he's a paid watchman. Because in return for the fact, he's going to pay him for doing the work on the shoes. So the shoemaker is getting money. So he's treated as a paid watchman as long as he has the shoes by him. The Tanya, right, so in the Mishnah we said he's a shemer sacher. We said a uman is a shemer sacher, he's a paid watchman. But we always have the classic explanation of the four Shemer. We always talk about a Shemer Chinam, Shemer Sachar, a Seicher, and a Shayel. Now, we know what the din is for three of those, really. A Shemer Chinam and a Shemer Sachar, which is a paid watchman, and a Shayel who's a borrower. But we always skip over a Seicher, because a Seicher is a Machlekes. Machlekes remain Rabbi Yehuda. What the din is of someone who rents something, what kind of Shemer is he considered? So the Tanya Seicher Ketzim Mishalim. What is the din of a Seicher of a renter? As far as what kind of Shemer is he? Remeya Aymerka Shemer Chinam. He's treated as someone who's watching for free, because the Seicher is paying for the privilege of using the thing. So the fact that he's using it, he's not a shayl because he's paying for it. So you paid for your usage. So now that which you watch it, you're like a Shemer Chinam. Yehuda Aymerka Shemer Sachar. Yehuda says he's like a Shemer Sachar. Yehuda says Lamaisi, you're getting paid, so you're like someone who's being paid to watch. I'm sorry, Seicher, you're not getting paid. You're getting the use of the thing, so that's your pay. So you're treated like a Shemer Sachar, even though you're paying for that privilege. But in the end, you're getting use out of the thing. So you're getting, it's as if you're getting paid to watch. But in any case, the Gemara is saying, if you say that a Seicher, according to a mayor, is a Shemer Chinam, it means a Seicher who is paying for the privilege of using this thing. Since he's paying for it, he's not the usage he gets doesn't make it into a Shemer Sachar. So we should say the same thing by an Uman. An Uman is getting paid for the work that he's doing. So why are you saying, according to a mayor, he should be a Shemer Chinam? He's that which he's has it in his rishos is because he's being paid to watch it. He's being paid to do work. So the fact that he's getting paid doesn't make him into a Shemer Sachar. That pay is for the work. So it should be similar to a Seicher. And we know that Stam Mishnah is like Rameir. So how can you say, according to Rameir, who holds that a Seicher is the Shemer Chinam, why wouldn't an Uman also be a Shemer Chinam? The Gemara Afilu Taim Rameir. No, the Gemara says, our Mishnah, it says a Uman is like a Shemer Sachar. It could even be according to Rameir, who says that a Seicher is a Shemer Chinam. What's the difference? By he another kashavik kuli alma, but agalei lididei havi ilu Shemer Sachar. We'd say, even though a Seicher is a Shemer Chinam, but an Uman who's getting business, as you all know, people advertise to get business. It's not easy to get business. So he feels lucky enough that this person gave him the job and he's going to get paid for doing this job. So in return for that, he'll be a Shemer Sachar. It's as if he's getting paid by giving him his business. That's his pay that makes him into a Shemer Sachar while he has the person's object. So Gemara, Yachi Seichanami, by he another Geshava Kuli Amu Mogalei Lididei. Let's say when someone rents something, they'll say, "Listen, everyone wants to rent the Corvette, and you picked me to rent the Corvette, so I should be the Seicher should also be according to Rameir Shemer Sachar. So if you use that theory, a Seicher should also be a Shemer Sachar. Bahi ano the Geshavah Kuli Alma Mogala Didei Havi Lu Shemer Sachar. So we'll say a different spot. The reason why Rameir would say that a Uman is a Shemer Sachar is because it's a strange thing, but Rashi says that whenever someone hires someone to do something, you end up overpaying a little bit. That means, I guess it's like, when you have a cleaning lady, you always give her a little extra because you want them to do a good job, or you tip them. But there's always a little built-in extra money that you pay someone. So Havilu Shemer Sachar. So in addition to what you're getting paid for doing the work, you also get a little extra. That little extra that the Uman gets, that the shoemaker gets, that makes him into a Shemer Sachar on the shoes. So Gemara Seichanami. What about a Seicher, someone who rents Mila Eskin the Kamashile Tzvei Porto? We'll say with the renter also, when you rent something from someone, Rashi says you're not machalik. Like let's say you're going to give it for 10 days. And you say, okay, you know what, you can take it for an extra half a day. You're not so medactic with him, and you give him a little extra. So that should also make you into a Shemer Sachar, according to Rameir. Ela afilu teim Rameir. But he ano the topish le'agra deloy boilam bailam mefagazuzi have elo Shemer Sachar. Say a difference for it. The reason why Rameir would say a Uman is a Shemer Sachar while he's holding it, because in addition to having the object by him to work on, it also functions as a mashkin, that the person who gave it to him, he's not going to get back his thing until he pays. So he's getting value from having it in his possession, that he uses it as leverage to make sure he gets paid for his work. So that's what makes his possession as that of a shemisach. Final teretz is that the whole problem was that Rabbi Yehuda Remeir holds that a seicher is like a shemachinam. So how could we say in our Mishnah, Stam Mishnah? Stam Mishnah is like Remeir, that a shemer, that a omen is treated like a shemer sachar. I'll answer that Einachanami. We have the shittas mixed up. Remeir is really the one who says that a seicher is kashem sachar, and then it makes sense why a Stam Mishnah says that a omen is a shem sachar. We said, if someone, a omen has his property, has the property of the person who gave him work, if he tells the guy, come pick up your object and bring your money out. You pick it up, and I'm not even worried. When you give me the money, you give me the money. As long as once he said that to the original owner, it becomes a shayim mechinim. Like we said, it's as if like on the receipt it says, after this time, I'm not taking responsibility. It's non hasam. If the shayl, we learned in the Mishnah, if a shayl said, Shalach v'shel, I'm sorry, in our Mishnah we said, the shayl says, Shalach v'shelcha, send your shayla. Reuben wants to borrow something from Shimon. He wants to borrow his horse. And Reuben said to Shimon, send me over the horse, v'shelcha, and Shimon sent it, umesa, and it died on the way after it was sent by Shimon before it arrived at Reuben, chayiv. Reuben is going to be chayiv, the borrower is going to be chayiv, because he instructed him to send it. So as soon as Shimon listened to his instructions and sent it, it becomes the what's it called, the bekadin of Reuben. It's in his rishus. He becomes a shem on it, and he's chayiv on einsim. B'chein b'shasha machzira, and the same thing will apply the other way around. If Shimon says to Reuben, "Send me back my horse because time is up," as soon as Reuben sends it, Shimon is going to be responsible if anything happens to it. That which we say that Shimon, that the shayl, that Reuben is chayiv until it reaches, unless Shimon had said, "Send it back to me," but if Shimon didn't say that back, send it back to me, Reuben remains chayiv on it until it returns to him. That's only if it's during the term of the loan, right? Reuben asked, "Can I borrow your horse for 10 days?" And Reuben borrowed it for 10 days, and the 10 days are up. Now it's 12 days later, so Reuben has no longer a right to continue using the horse. He's no longer a shayl, because his shayla is up. He's now just watching it. He becomes a shem mechinim. So, frag the Gemara, how could we say this? How could the Mishnah say such a thing from our Mishnah? We said whoever says, whenever the omen says to the owner, he was a shemus sacharnit, he says, "Come take your thing and bring the money," then he becomes a shem mechinim. Hagamartiv shemus sachar. But the Mashmayis is, had he not said, "Come pick up your thing," but he just said, "Okay, the work is finished," and he didn't make any specific provision that the owner has to come pick it up, he wouldn't become a shem mechinim. He would remain a shem sachar, because he hasn't told him to go pick it up. So it's that shver on what we said. He's potter even without telling the owner to come pick it up, even without saying v'shilcha, he's potter. So ha v'mois v'tolat shalach shemasacha. Hagamat of shemasacha. That's not what it means. Say What it means to say is not what it says when it says what it means to say what he means to say is in the what it means to say is if you say Toila Shalach V'hava Mayis Shemechinam, but it means to say if you reverse it, you'd say the other way around. But if you'd say first, come give your money and then pick up your thing, then you remain a Shemasacha because he's still using the property as leverage to get back his money. Aval Gemarta ben Einachanami, so the diak, you can't make the diak like you wanted to say that if you'd say Gemartiv, you're going to be Chayiv. Rather, Aval Gemarta my Shemechinam. By Gemartiv, you remain a Shemechinam. So tomorrow, Yachi Adatani Bekulat Sham B'Tel Shalach V'Havamay Shemechinam Shmein and Gemartiv. The Kolshkin Tel Shalach. If we're saying that Gemartiv is also a Shemechinam, what does it have to say where he said, come pick it up? Even if he just said Gemartiv, if he said, I'm done, he becomes a Shemechinam. But Kolshkin Tel Shalach. So Gemara Tel Shalach, it's Strichle. No, we wanted to say that Tel Shalach is he's a Shemechinam. I might have thought that if he says, come pick up your thing, he's not even a Shemechinam anymore. He's saying, I don't want to be a Shemer altogether. He's saying, I take no responsibility for it. And at this point, I'm not even for a Pshia, I'm not responsible. It's as if you're leaving it lying on the ground. So that's why we said the case of Toila Shalach to tell you that he still remains a Shemer. The others have a different version of this Masuman. Whoever says, come pick up your thing and bring your money, meaning first he says, come pick up your thing and I'm not being makbid on the money, he's a Shemechinam. My love, who adin Gemartiv, and the Gemara wants to be Medayik, according to this, we're saying that Gemartiv would be the same thing. And we know, like we said before, because it's just coming to exclude Toil, where he says, Havi Mois v'Toil Shalach, it's coming to exclude the other direction. But the Mashmoyis is, but if he says Gemartiv, and Gemartiv will be the same thing. So look, Toil Shalach Shani. Gemara says no. We're going to. So according to this, he's saying Toil Shalach is different. Gemartiv Einachanami would be a Shemesach. Huna Mar Bar Marema Kamei de Ravina Rami Mastisan Hadadi Umashani. He asked two Mishnahs and he answered. Like we just said, the Pshat we just said that if he says Toilet Shalach, come pick it up, and if he said Gemartiv, then I'm finished, the din is both of them is that the person who's washing it becomes a Shemechinam. The shell says, send it. And the person and the lender sent it. Like we said before, he's being mechalik between whether it's during the term of the Sheila, whether it's after the term of the Sheila. We'll stop over here, continue with this.